Hello, I'm Sarah Jones, the managing editor of the journal Blake and Illustrated Quarterly. Today's tutorial is about using images from the archive for your own purposes. When do you have to ask for permission? Whom do you ask? How much will it cost? Since Blake's works are old enough to be in the public domain, you could argue that images of them should be free to use. On the other hand, making digital images available comes at a cost. Some institutions choose to recoup part of that cost through charging fees. So the answer is, it depends. In this video, we'll discuss what it depends on. I'll call these the 3 I's. The first is for the image itself. Is the work unique, such as a painting, or do you have some choice, such as a plate from an illuminated book that has multiple copies? Secondly, intention. If you're using an image in a class presentation or school assignment, you generally do not need to ask for permission. But what if you're putting it out into the world in some way, by publishing an article or book, or selling a t-shirt? Thirdly, institution. In other words, who owns the rights to the image? In most cases, it's not the Blake Archive itself. The archive does not own any of the works within it, nor does it own the rights to the digital images of those works, except in 2 instances that I'll mention later. To discover the institution that does in each case, click on the copyright symbol beneath the object view. In this case, it's the Huntington Library. If you scroll down to About the Archive and choose Contributing Collections, you can find general contact details for each institution represented in the archive. It's important to research the permission policy of the relevant institution because policies vary greatly, from no restrictions at all to having to pay a fee based on the type of use. The methods of initiating a request also differ. You might be asked to create an account, submit a form, or send an email. Here's an example. I decide to sell coffee mugs so that we at the Rochester office can afford better snacks. I want a design with wide appeal, so I choose the famous frontispiece to Europe, also known as the Ancient of Days. By finding an impression of that design in one copy, choosing objects from the same matrix, select all objects, and compare selected objects, I can see my options. The copy D impression from the British Museum looks good, so I click to get the object view and verify that the rights belong to the British Museum. On the British Museum site, I discover that it draws a line between commercial and non-commercial use, which means that I'll almost certainly pay a fee for selling merchandise. If I return to my options, select the Copy A impression from the Yale Center for British Art, and follow up on its site, I find that Yale will allow me to use the image for any purpose without charge. As I said, in most cases, the institution that holds the work also holds the rights to the digital image in the archive. The 2 sources where the archive maintains the rights are the Library of Congress and the Essex Collection. For instance, the Library of Congress houses Blake's drawings to Wollstonecraft. For these, the copyright is to the William Blake Archive. Look on the Archive's Copyright and Permissions page for instructions on how to request permission from the archive. Finally, some tips and tricks. The first is really a confession. In the example from Europe, I conveniently had the tabs for the British Museum and Yale Centre for British Art permission policies all ready to go. In reality, it's not always easy to find policies on an institution's site. I suggest locating the work in the institution's online catalogue and looking for a likely link, such as this for the British Museum and this for the Yale Centre for British Art. If that fails, try searching the institution's site for a phrase such as image permission or reproduction. Number 2, apart from Yale, collections with liberal policies for works in the public domain include the Metropolitan Museum and the National Gallery of Art in Washington. Number 3, once you acquire a permission, it applies to that project only. You can't use it for another project or transfer it to somebody else. And number 4, the permission will specify a credit line, such as this one. Even when no formal permission is required to reproduce an image, it's good practice to include a credit to the relevant institution. Thank you very much for listening.